The kids are in bed for the night. I've slowly made my way downstairs to my studio space, and as I'm cleaning up my mess of previous project, I started to have an idea of yet another project.
I have an idea.
See, I picked up some silicone rubber a few weeks back, and it specifically calls out that it's food safe. This weekend, I'm going to a kid's birthday party, and it's Shrek themed.
Now, my idea is to do something a little bit more fun and design some one-of-a-kind customized chocolate bars. Now, it's Monday night and this party's this weekend, so I gotta go if I'm gonna get this done in time. So it's time to get to the Fusion 360. Let's go.
Now, the first thing we're going to do is just create a simple rectangle and match the dimensions of a standard Hershey's bar, and then just give it some rounded corners. Nothing too complex here. We want to keep it, especially this first design, a little bit more simple. So we bring in an SVG, plop it down on the design, just kind of in a rough placement. It doesn't really matter that much. I'm going to put a little divider in the middle as a way for the chocolate bar to snap and break pretty easily. Now, I could just throw this into Prusa Slicer as is, print it out, and go. But what I'm actually going to do is, since I'm making a mold of this, I'm going to build the mold around the part itself. So then the 3D print is both the part that I want to copy and the mold at the same time. That way I don't have to try to build out a mold box and then be concerned about the silicone rubber leaking out or any of that. I just pour it all in, pull it out, and then I've got my part. Alright, with the first design done, I can just send this to the printer. It's going to take about 6.5 hours for this one print, and I've got a handful of designs that I want to do for this. So I'm going to go ahead and design a bunch of these, get them all printed up, and then we'll be ready to pour some silicone.
All right, a couple days later, a whole bunch of time printing, and we've got 6 separate molds ready. So we'll go through them one by one. There's a couple of imperfections and oddities that we want to go through. So the first one, we had an issue with the corner not sticking to the bed very well. That caused it to lip up just a little bit. And you can see here in the corner, it kind of came up a bit and kind of made a nasty mark on it. So this one, I ended up deciding just to reprint. And so this is the result that we got. Nice, clean, simple print. Next up, we went simple again. This one is, I ended up using the ironing feature in Prusa Slicer, and there's a couple spots that it did really well, but then especially in the top, it got real rough. So that didn't go over well. I'm not sure exactly why that happened. It might be that the filament was too wet is my best guess, but I'm not sure. I think I'm going to stick with it though, and I'm going to just say that's donkey's hair. Totally a design choice. All right, next up, we got a little bit more creative. So because I'm not 100% sure how well the molds are going to hold up, the first couple are really simple. This one gets a little bit more intricate. So we've got a nice little hatch pattern going and the words are raised up a bit. One small gotcha that I didn't realize I made this issue, the text, I didn't extrude up from the top, but I didn't go the other way as well. So there's slight lips, overhangs, right underneath the crosshatch. I'm going to hope that that turns out okay. I'm not sure if it's going to cause an issue, especially with the chocolate when that gets in there, but we're going to give it a go anyway. Next up, we got a little bit more creative again. This one still has that Shrek logo, but we did kind of a mosaic pattern in it. This should be fairly simple as long as a lot of these smaller details end up coming through all right and don't like crack the chocolate or something. And then last up, this one I went off the Shrek theme and did just a Rowan 1 year. So Rowan is the baby that is having the birthday, and added a little bit more in and out, up and down depth to the design on the other side. So this will obviously be one chocolate bar that'll split, but I wanted to keep them kind of separate. So I've got 5 pounds of melting chocolates on the way going to be delivered tomorrow. So I want to get these filled up and get these molds going. That way I can give this a try tomorrow once everything is fully cured. So let's get these filled up so they can cure overnight. Now I've already measured out the volume for these and they're roughly 4 ounces or 2 ounces of part A, 2 ounces of part B. We've got 5 of these, so we need roughly 20 ounces or 10 ounces of part A, 10 ounces of part B. So let's get everything ready. So we're going to use a kitchen scale, large measuring cup. This is Shrek themed, so we're going to add some silicone green dye to this. I'm going to be using my drill mixer attachment. You can find a link to that in the description if you want your own. We need our silicone. Now normally I would spray a mold release agent on this. That's probably not going to be food safe though. So I am just going to hope that since these are all printed out in PETG that nothing's going to really stick to them that well and it should come up all right. We did some pretty decent chamfers on the edges of this, so I think this will work out fine. All right, I'm just going to eyeball how much dye to put in here. Oh, looks like I need to cut it. Doesn't need to be exact. This is just for fun, just to color it up. And then we'll give it a good mix. This one in particular has a 30-minute working time, so we need to act a little quick. All right, that should be pretty well mixed. Now all we really got to do is just pour it in. Just trying to fill in the low points as much as I can, just to help make sure no big air bubbles get trapped. Technically, this is a bubble-free mix, so it shouldn't really matter, but never hurts to be a little extra. All right, they are all set. Now all we gotta do is let them cure overnight. So I'll see you tomorrow. All right, here we are the next morning and everything has been fully cured. Everything's nice and tight and everything cured well. So now the next step is to actually pull these out of the mold. So that's where it gets a little bit trickier. So I'm gonna start with the first one here. And with the chamfer that's been added, hopefully these will just kind of peel right up. I didn't add any mold release agents or anything to this, so I'm hoping that the PETG just isn't sticky enough to hold the silicone. So we'll give it a try. All I'm going to do is take a pair of old tweezers and just run them along the edge, trying to peel it up from the edge here. Now we've got that, now we can just try to pry it up. Just going to go around the edges first, where it's a little bit meatier, and then we'll try to pull it up nice and slow. It should be pretty tough to break these, but there are some nicer, finer details in this that could be a problem if we go too quick. All right, we got our first mold. Now we just have to do it 4 more times, and hopefully the more fine detailed ones pull out just as well. Now this one had some extra overhangs underneath of the pattern because of the text, so I'm hoping this peels up fairly well without pulling the silicone too badly. Yeah, that didn't do too bad. I don't see any major tears in it. I don't think I see any tears. It looks like everything came out pretty clean. All right, these all seem to come out just fine. So now it's time to give them a run. Let's head to the kitchen.
All right, for making chocolate bars, the first thing obviously you're going to need is chocolate. So I'm using some melting chocolate wafers, and then I've got a handful of flavors. So one of them is the one for donkey, which is going to be maple and waffle. So I'm just using some waffle cone bowls, smashing them up. I'm also using some cookie dough that's birthday cake flavored. Just random things that I found at the store that I thought might be interesting in a chocolate bar. When pouring the chocolate in, I'm using a little brush and I'm just trying to get them up into the sides. That way they fully cover the sides and the bottom and try to get at them as many details as I can. And then I'm just giving them a good shake. The chocolate's nice and melty, so I'm mostly just trying to get out any extra bubbles that I can. Once it comes out of the fridge for 5 to 10 minutes, everything should be cooled down enough that it's going to be solidified, and then I can start filling or putting the stuff in the middle. The one for donkey, I'm actually using a maple butter for it rather than like maple syrup or something. It should hold a little bit better, especially if it's been cooled. Then once I have all the fillings in, I one by one just add chocolate to each one of them and then give them a good shake. I initially was hoping to run a knife over the top of these, but with the stuff in the middle of them, they ended up being a little bit too lumpy and bumpy, and so it just kind of messed up the chocolate bar. So if I were to do these molds again, I would probably raise up the top of them a little bit more and just not fill the mold completely. That way I could give them a good shake and they would have a fairly clean edge. With these ones, as they demolded, there was a bit of kind of like flashing. The chocolate that was on the edges doesn't really matter. They still give a pretty clean appearance, especially the top. The molding comes off pretty well, and you can see all of the details. It's important to go pretty slow with these to demold them, and you're definitely going to want a glove. Even just a tiny little touch with your finger is going to show fingerprints on them, and then they melt quickly too. So you don't want to hold them any longer than you have to. As quick as you can get them over, the better. For wrapping these, I just used some aluminum foil, kind of prepped it ahead of time, and then it's just a very simple wrap. I tried to touch the wrapping as little as possible. The aluminum foil is not particularly thick or anything like that, so any touching of it will drastically change, like add wrinkles and crinkles and stuff like that to it. So to keep it cleaner, just try to do as few folds and touching as possible.
All right, so we've got all of our chocolate bars made, but now we just have a shiny block of rectangle. And everybody knows presentation is king. So it's time to go and design some wrapping for this. So let's do it. Time to hit up Photoshop.
After a couple of days of designing, I've finally gotten everything printed out, and all I've got to do now is get them all cut up, get everything folded and creased at the right spot, so that then they're ready for the chocolate bars. I'm going to use a little bit of hot glue to connect the wrapper ends. Then all I need to do is slide the chocolate bar onto the wrapper.
All right, made it in the nick of time. Ended up with 10 chocolate bars that took to the party, and there was a couple of bites left of one of them by the end of it. So I think that went pretty well. We ended up with 8 unique ones, 10 in total. So that's that. Until next time.